And we are live. Hey,
Yay!
everybody. Hi, hi,
Hello,
hi.
hello, hello.
All
Welcome,
right,
everybody.
Amber,
This
take
is
it
our second
away.
episode of Moms for Kids podcast. My name is Amber Trimp, or Hollowell. I am your host this week. My pronouns are she, her, and I will pass it off to Dee Dee.
Hi, I am Dee Dee Lloyd. I am a coach, and my pronouns are she, her as well. Oh, Dr. Lulu.
Oh, okay. I caught the bat. Hi, my name is Dr. Lulu, aka the Momatrician, pediatrician and life coach, and brand new corporate consultant working with organizations to help them create safe spaces for parents of LGBT plus kids. Jenny, take it away.
That just leaves me. Hi, I'm Jenny. My pronouns are she, her. I am the proud, loving, supportive parent of a son who happens to be trans. I am also the director of education for the Gender Freedom Society, and I am the parent coordinator for the Q&A group, which is a local group working with queer people and their allies.
If you're here, then please tell us whether you are team live or whether you're team replay. And if you happen to have any comments, any questions, then put them in the comments throughout, and we will try and get back to those. This week we are discussing, our episode is going to be about our own stories. But how was everybody's week? Anybody got any news?
Not really. I'm looking for houses, so that keeps me busy. In addition to coaching, in addition to being a parent, in addition to like 50 other roles. But yeah, that's what I've been doing.
So you're lifing essentially. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're lifing.
Exactly.
I happen to have gone to two different events because it won't be one event, it was two events in 1 week. And one of them was for the LGBT Chamber of Commerce of Texas. They had all the chambers came together, and then the other one was for women empowerment yesterday. So I just came back and I'm trying to stay awake. Jenny?
That's awesome. You know what? I actually went to my parent group meets 2 Sundays a month. We met today and we made pride bricks.
Oh, so
we make them out of the little polymer clay, I guess is what it is. And then we covered them in rainbow glitter to honor Marsha P. Johnson. And then look, guys, I made these little bitty ones and I'm going to paint them and I'm going to make earrings.
Okay, I want one. I want one. I want one. I'm putting my order in.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to make them for all of us next time I'm there at the
I will wear them. That'll be cool.
Now, do you guys want them plain or do you want me to do rainbow glitter? And then I will seal it so the glitter doesn't fall off.
I want rainbow
glitter. I want rainbow glitter and I want a trans one. I want a trans one. I got to go extra.
Got
you. Hi, Lisa.
Okay.
Sweet. All right. Well, now that we've gotten our crafting out of the way, a little mom humor for you guys. But so today's episode is going to be about the hard stuff, sort of how we all found out, how we reacted, and how we worked through that with our kids. For myself, my journey was my son came out as asexual, agender in high school, and so it wasn't totally this. Oh, okay, I don't know completely what that is. Like that was kind of I don't want to have anything to do with anybody. And as a parent of a teenager, like that really wasn't that big of a deal for me. I was just kind of like, okay, good. I don't have to worry about that one right now. And I just kind of let him be. He didn't have a lot of questions about it. He continued to use and go by his former pronouns for that time period, but that wasn't something that he needed. And so 2 years later, he came out to me by email, and he was at college. And I was in college. He was in college. I was actually in nursing school. And so he kind of sent me an email. They kind of told me he'd been rewriting and just finally got the bravery to hit send on it. And it was pretty much that he was trans, but that he was struggling in school, living in a dorm with someone else. He didn't feel like he could get dressed. He was uncomfortable going to the showers, and he was beginning to shut down. He didn't want to go to class. Just didn't want to socialize, didn't want to move out into society. And I knew this was kind of a red flag. I'm like, let's just bring you home. And I kind of, the first couple of days I did that. Are you sure? And questioned him on it. And I questioned him because that was my fear. what I worried he was going to have to face. I already knew, like I knew what was in the news. I knew, and granted, this was probably 5 years ago now, but there was beginning to get some pushback against the transgender community even then. Not quite as heated as it's nowhere near as heated as it is now, but still enough that I knew that wasn't going to be an easy path. And I wanted my kid to have an easier path than I did in life. So I really had to kind of sit with that a couple of days. And then it really kind of dawned on me that, again, that was my fear. And then I was projecting my fear on my kid. And this was a fear that, quite frankly, my kid didn't have. My kid's bigger fear was whether or not I was going to accept him, whether or not I was going to love him. And that was easy for me, just to say, you know what, that other stuff doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, you're my kid. I want what's best for you. And I understood that it was his life. And maybe that's because he came out at 19. Maybe that's why, because he was an adult already, that it was a lot easier than had he been younger and come to me. But when I look back on his childhood, playing with the toys and trucks, always wearing boys, and he didn't wear like androgynous clothing. He wore male clothing, cargo shorts, cargo pants, baseball t-shirts, tuxes for his prom, tuxes for his graduation photo. The kid was telling me who he was. Even if he didn't know it yet, he was telling me who he was. So honestly, when he came out, it was kind of like, oh, okay, this all kind of now makes sense. It was almost, I wouldn't say reassuring, but there were a lot of questions I didn't have anymore. That clarified it for me. Dee Dee, what about you?
Well, yeah, there was definitely a transition from being apprehensive to being an advocate. I remember my child came out. It was just such a matter-of-fact statement. I think I was getting ready to go see one of my student families. It was during COVID. And so everything was kind of shut down, the graduations and things like that. So what I did is I would go visit each parent family, and we have our own little celebrations. And so I was getting ready for that, and he already said he didn't want to go. And I was gathering my balloons and stuff, and he just came up to me and said, "Mom, I'm transgender." I was like, what? What? And so, and I did not have a lot of clues. I mean, there was the time when he was 10, he did come out as bisexual, but it seemed different. It seemed different to me. Clothing had always been unique, like colorful and, flamboyant, noticeable, but not masculine or anything like that. And so for a while, I think my stance was what I did know is that at that moment, I needed to appear supportive. I knew that. And I needed to let my child know that I loved him. But inside I was terrified. I was like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? What about your future? What about what we plan? What about, I had so many questions. And I remember like putting on like a stoic face and saying, okay, well, we need to talk more about it. And I want to know more about it. Thank you for telling me. I appreciate that. Hour ahead, I was crying in the arms of one of my parents. I was crying about the future of my child. And my parent just said, because I'm an ASD teacher. So you get to know the families. And so you have this relationship with them. And so it was the grandmother said, how's your child doing? And I said, okay. But this morning he said, yada, yada. From there on, I was just crying. So I remember the advice I was given was to persevere. And I like that I can do that, persevere, keep going. And that's me, perseverance, keep going. And that's what I did for I'd say almost a year. He was only out to me, and he was out at school and out to friends. And I just persevered. And we focused on grades and college and all the things. But in that perseverance, that was not my acceptance. That was not me becoming an advocate. It was only, I think we went to a weekend retreat, and I really started seeing other people who were transgender. I attended a conference, and then it's like I got it all at once. Like, this is who my child is. And once those blinders fell off, that's when I believe I became truly accepting. It wasn't just perseverance. It wasn't just not let me say the wrong thing. It was just, I get it. I get you. I see you. I love you as you are. And I said, well, we need to tell our family. Why am I the only one that knows this about you? The fact that you're your age, you know who you are. Why am I the only one? And I said, is that something you're interested in? What do you think about that? And so we talked about that, and we had a party, and we told our family. And yeah, and ever since then, I was already familiar with coaching from losing 70 pounds, keeping it off. But I wasn't familiar, that it could impact my relationship with other people. And I really went to work on that, became a certified life coach so I can help other parents because of my struggles. And that was my little transition. That's my little story.
Thank you. How about you, Dr. Lulu?
I'm just like drawn in. What an amazing storyteller. I was drawn in just listening, and I kind of was in the room with you. Thank you for sharing that. Mine, like most parents who are of African descent, of African ancestry, you are taught that anything that's gay, you are going on a highway straight to hell. You're not going to pass go. You're not going to collect nothing on your way. So I was raised that way. And even as I struggled with my own sexuality, I know one of the things I always said when my kid was young was stop acting like a girl. That was a constant statement in my mouth. I said that all the time. And so my biggest fear was, God, please don't let him, and I use him in context. I tell people when I tell the story, I use the pronoun of that time. I said, God, please don't let him be gay. Don't let him be gay. And the story I tell is that God was like, ooh, okay, so you think gay is the worst thing that I can make? Mikey is the name that I chose. I got news for you. How about trans? And so I found out about being non-binary during the graduation from Stanford at the award ceremony. My kid was receiving the award of excellence, and the announcer was saying they this and they that, and they did this and they did that. So I was like, son, I thought you were the only one getting the award. I mean, who are all these other people? Literally, that's my story. Because I was like, who are the people? I was truly blindsided, truly had no idea what this non-binary, I mean, gay I might get. Wait, there's a gender one? Oh, there's sexuality and gender. Oh. And then I heard, oh, mom, actually, it's not just that. I'm trans. Like within 6 months, or was it the next year? And actually, it was 2 years later. It was 2020 was the non-binary. Then 2021. So 1 year later, about 18 months later, then I got a phone call, mom, I'm trans. And just listening to Amber and listening to Dee Dee, Amber got an email. I got a phone call. I'm saying this because I know there are people out there who think parents want to groom their kids. I was blindsided. I didn't see it coming. Phew. So that's kind of it. And then I was like, no, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not non-binary. No, you're not this thing you think you are. Yeah, I said those things. And then I had to, there was the sobering moment was, I think we were going to settle in at the master's program. And then she said, Mom, if you're not going to support me through this, then I'm okay with going along this journey by myself. I think this is maybe the first time I've ever said that to anybody's loud. And I was like, no, you're not. And so that for me was my turning point. My kid was like, I would do this by myself. And that is a lot to say about the resiliency and the strength of these human beings. I can just imagine myself telling my father, I don't even think I could. But anyway, I had to make a decision that day. And so here I am, X amount of months later, helping parents along the journey like I did this afternoon. And then most importantly, because the government is coming for us, I'm now helping organizations so that I can get more people at the same time. So yeah, that's my story. Thank you for letting me share, because that last bit I've never really shared. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Jenny?
That is so impactful to hear, because I can't help but think to myself what it would take for any of us if we can put ourselves back to when we were young adults or older teens, or really at any point in our life. Have we ever, what kind of courage it takes to say to your parent, because our parents lived a whole life without us. I lived a whole life before I lived multiple. If you know my story, woo, it's wild. But I've never known a single day on this earth without my parents in it. So what that means to say, I'm willing to go do this without you, is just, that's I think the piece that so many parents are missing whenever their kids come out and they think, well, I'm going to berate my child into this, or no, we don't do that in this house, or that's not truth. Let's talk about truth. Well, the truth is that trans people exist. And the truth is that your child deserves to feel like they are part of the love that you said was unconditional, that you said you would love them no matter what. Anyway, sorry for that little tangent. My story.
No, that was needed. That was needed. That was needed, because
I'm the resident leftist liberal of my family, so I'm sure they all think that my child being transgender is my fault, that I didn't have groomed him. I promise I did not. I'm actually a queer woman myself, and I'm not sure I even really knew I was queer until my child came out as queer. Because I thought that every woman liked girls, at least somewhat. Like, it doesn't make sense. Have you seen women? It doesn't make sense to me that there are just truly straight women. I'm like, what are you talking? No, you're not. You're lying. You're just lying. Just, okay. I mean, I'll go with that, but you're a liar. I assumed everybody did like that. And I already had a lot of kind of, I had friends in the queer community, and my kids were raised around, gay and lesbian people. I'm not sure that the two trans people I knew before my son came out, I'm not sure that my son ever met them, or maybe even knew that I knew them. I'm not sure. But it was it was a very gradual little tiptoe into the rainbow waters. And she at the time said, I'm bi. I said, cool. Then it was, never mind, I'm a lesbian. I said, cool. And then I watched my child. I'm trying to speak just from my perspective. I watched this child that I love so much go through this very turbulent time, kind of emotionally. I watched this child kind of gender bend. We went through this phase of wearing these hyper feminine clothing. I'm talking crinoline skirts, poofed out to here, not stiletto, but like platform boots, bright pink. And I remember looking at him at the time and thinking, he looks like a boy in drag, but not like a boy trying to do drag. It looked like somebody had put a pink fluffy dress on a boy. His hair was never really done. He didn't really do makeup. I still love and celebrate anybody's choices and like what they wear and having fun with fashion and stuff like that. So I wasn't going to say much, but he looked out of place. He just looked out of place to me. And so, no big deal. And then eventually one day I can remember I was just sitting in my living room. I think I was doing dishes actually. And he walked in and he said, Mom, I'm trans. I'm going with he, him pronouns. And my name is this. And I was like, okay. And he was on the phone with his girlfriend, and I just kept doing what I was doing. And then I went, well, I better check with him and make sure he's being serious. Because I know that's not a ha-ha funny joke, but if you know our humor in our family, you can understand where I might have been like, okay, but seriously, dude, like, are you serious? Because I want to do this right. And I had already seen on his Instagram that he'd put something to the effect of, I don't care about pronouns. Any pronouns are fine. And I remember I had called my husband and said, I saw this on his Instagram, and I want to mentally prepare you for what's probably coming next. Because I know as a cis person, I would never say pronouns don't matter to me. I have pronouns, they're mine. I think anybody who starts to say pronouns don't matter to me, you're probably getting a hint. And that's okay. Like, give yourself maybe some time to From there, I think the biggest struggles that I had were just what I was afraid of other people. I didn't realize that there was going to be this closet that I went into, this feeling of who can I tell? When is this safe to talk about? people notice that he doesn't look super manly at 18 years old. He doesn't look like an 18-year-old boy would look. People misgender him. I was very nervous about telling my parents. And I just decided to go at it with a really positive attitude and not say, guys, listen, I have something to tell you. You might want to sit down for this. You know, this whole idea of mourning. My kid didn't die, you know. Yeah, the only thing I can think of mourning is maybe the idea of seeing him in a wedding dress, but honestly, he may still wear one. Nobody knows. Clothes don't have a gender.
Right.
So I just, you know, I decided that anybody I told, I would say, okay, so listen up. I know this is a little different. I know this is a hot button issue right now, but I have something to tell you. This is this. Here's how we're going to do this. You know, if that's a problem, I'm going to need you to keep it to yourself because we're not doing that, you know, and but so far it's been mostly okay. There are people who have their moments and their issues, and I just kind of, and you know, I'm just here to love my kid.
I think that's what we're all here to do. I effectively, I think when you get to, I think there is a shock value to it. Like, it's nothing that, unless your child has been giving you all the signs, right? I just don't necessarily think we're going to see it unless they say, hey, mom, by the way, tap, tap, tap on the shoulder or the phone call or the email. Like, I feel like they come out to us when they're ready, but I think sometimes that's in navigating that too. Like, multiple of us said that our kids came out as one thing and it evolved over time. And that's, again, this process of discovering who they are. And that when I hear, going back to what Lulu said about that, we're grooming our kids, like this idea that we're making them into something, guys, hands off the wheel.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, we're letting them decide, because this isn't a choice that you can't force someone to be a different gender than they want to be.
Right.
You can't.
Amber, it's funny you said that. You know, there's this thing about saying, okay, yeah, you will not be transgender. Well, guess what? Just because you say no doesn't mean your child is not still trans. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't change.
Yes,
it doesn't change
it.
anything about them. They have made that. It's not even, that's not a belief. That's not a thought. That is who they are.
Absolutely. The only thing they're deciding is whether to share it with other people or not. That's it. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Whether or not they can trust you, whether or not you're safe.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I mean, I hate to say it, but sometimes I'm like, was I not a good safe space? And that's why you were an adult before you came to this. And I don't try and blame myself, because honestly, I didn't push him. I didn't push him to make choices because I wanted him to figure that out for himself. It's not my path.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I think the thing about that is that it's easy for us to forget the process of them coming into themselves, how hard that is to navigate and to know, because they're smart. They know that everything in our society is gendered. They know the danger they're in. They know that there are going to be people that hate them. They know that they may be cast out, and they're even worried that you might be one of the ones that cast them out, the person they love the most. So that's big for them. I would always say my child came out later, and it was only in reading some of those college essays that I find out he knew something. You know, he knew more than I gave him credit for knowing at a young age. And so he had to process all that within himself to say something's going on, but I have the church. I have mom, I have the family, I have dad, I have all these entities around me that say this is not right. And they see that, you know, right away. They can see that at age 2, 3, 4.
At
5,
age 2,
6.
yes.
Yeah. And it might not be that it wasn't a good place. It's just that they know once I come out with this to you and admit it to myself, it changes everything.
It changes everything. I love that. As a pediatrician, y'all will not believe this. If you go back to my page, you see I tagged a certain someone on one of my pages today, a pediatrician that I had a conversation with today. And she was trying to tell me how, but we must respect religion. I was done. That's what I said, ma'am, it's not a religious thing. And I said, and if you must respect religion, then you must also respect people who do not want to. I mean, it's not about religion. And I said, trans people are religious. They're religious. They love God.
Mhm.
But the human beings push them away. And then they feel like kind of divided. Well, if I love God and God made my mom, why is my mom telling me I'm not who I am? Like, it's confusing. So this is why when they choose trigger warning, when they choose suicide, don't be too surprised. It's a very tough thing. Didi, thank you for bringing up the fact that they've been known their gender and their sexuality since they were infants. It took my kid 20 years. And you know, it was my middle child that outed my kid. I would probably never have known. I got blocked on Twitter, but I found that it's because the pronouns changed on Twitter. That's why I got blocked. Because they didn't want me to know, just like you said, they were not sure, am I going to be one of those who are going to, because my ex-husband was already like, you're not my son, that kind of thing, you know? It's very hard for parents to watch that. I just want anybody who's watching, it's difficult enough for us. And when you have whole lawmakers coming for us, it's a tough place for parents.
It is. It's sanctioned bullying. It's a bizarre. I don't know what it's like to be in my child's shoes and wake up every morning and it's something else. If someone tries to do something nice and be like, look, we'll put some representation with the crappiest beer known to man, oh, the world shuts it down.
Mhm.
And it is this screaming message to my son. They hate me that much.
Yeah.
They hate me so much that they won't buy their fucking beer. What kind of message do you think that's sending? For months before my son came out, I dare say longer, probably a year or more, my dad had purchased this book. And I'm not going to name the book because I don't want to give anybody any ideas. You can find it. It's not difficult. But it is a book about it's anti-trans propaganda. It's written by somebody who doesn't know trans people, who doesn't know squat. It's all about, it's just anti-trans. I don't know what else to say. And he would set it out. You know, I guess he was reading it. And we all leave books out. I don't mean to say he was intentionally setting it out to be cruel, but he would set it out. We didn't know about my son yet. And at one point he came to me and was like, hey, Jen, look at this book. And the second I saw it, I was like, I'm not going to read that. You know, I have friends who are trans. I'm not going to read that. All that time, my son saw that book. He would see it when we would go to visit. So when he came out, the first thing my son said to me, I still have the text message screenshotted. He said, Mom, do you think this will ruin my relationship with my Jaja? These kids are afraid of losing people they love. And they are still willing to live authentically if it means risking everything. That is mind-blowing. And it breaks my heart. And it's real easy to come back and say, of course not. Your Jaja's always going to love you. He loves you no matter what. But I can't say I love you and then vote against you. What does that really mean? It sounds like I love my dog or I love my car. You know, it's just like, well, I mean, I love you, but I'm going to actively do everything I can to make sure that you're not safe, you don't get the treatment you need, because I still don't believe that what you tell me about you is correct. I've decided what truth is. I've decided there's a Socratic way to find truth, and that's it. And anything outside of that, you're mentally ill, something's wrong with you, you know, you're too woke. And it's just, we're talking about human beings. We're talking about children. And I believe that they do know. I don't know that they always have the language for it. I don't know that they had the language for this in mainstream 20 years ago.
10 years ago.
The community.
20. You're pushing it. I'm saying 10 years ago. 10 years ago was 2013, wasn't it? Wasn't that 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Yes.
2013? Because the Marriage Equality Act was 2012. So literally 10 years ago, we were just coming into our abilities to marry.
Right.
And I don't know Amber. I know Amber is really like big on the politics. Amber, you know, can you confirm or not? It was like after 2012, once the marriage equality thing was passed, more people started saying, okay, well, I guess I can be my true self now. Is that About right?
It was, and then we still didn't pass gay marriage. I believe it's either 2015 or 2016, and then we didn't even codify that you couldn't discriminate against against the gender identity. We didn't codify that until 2020. Now that's to be hired, but the Supreme Court just said that you can be judged upon that on whether or not you receive a service.
Thank you.
So make that make sense to me. Make
I
that
know.
make sense to me. You can't protect on one side and not protect on the other. And talking about the politics, like in my state, on the same day in the morning, they tried to pass a bill that was called the Parents Education Bill, which meant that they could go in and say what curriculum can be taught. They could even complain. And if you had 5 complaints against the same superintendent, you could fire the superintendent. Right? So this was a bill they were trying to pass in the morning. In the afternoon, they were trying to pass a bill that banned gender affirming care.
Oh, wow.
And what the politicians were saying on the floor was, how can you have a vote in the morning saying that parents have a right to butt into the teacher's classroom and into the principal's office, but they don't have a right in their child's health care in the doctor's office?
Right.
So here's the deal. Both bills went forward, right? One of them has now been said they're not going to talk about it probably this year at all, because the problem is if you pass that bill, then it completely contradicts the other bill. So guess which one they're dropping?
I know the one.
Yeah, me too.
Education.
I knew the one. Yeah, I knew that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then that's just, it's just to target this one population. And it's like they need a bullwhip. And honestly, in the 2000s, you know, when you're talking about when these laws were being passed, like in the 2000s, when we were trying to begin to get gay rights in this country,
Right.
that was the gas point. That was how they won their elections. Oh, we're going to keep this marriage between a man and a woman. What do you hear right now? The same rhetoric. It's just directed toward the trans community. But as soon as they take the trans community, they're going after the rest of the LGBT.
They sure are.
They
And
don't
I just want
stop. They
to-
don't stop.
I know that this is something for a different episode, but I just real quick want to clarify, because you talked about banning gender affirming care. And a lot of people hear those words and they think hormones and surgery. And people need to understand, when we talk about banning trans affirmative care, we're not just talking, none of our kids came to us. And I guarantee you, if all of our children had come to us at 10 years old and said, I'm trans, we wouldn't have been like, let's get to the clinic, chop your body parts off and start pumping you full of hormones.
Absolutely.
Nobody would have done that. We're talking about supportive and affirming mental health care.
That's it.
Banning trans affirming care would mean that a counselor cannot say, you're okay, I believe you, this is okay, trans people exist. You're banning that. You're talking about puberty blockers, which everybody loses their minds over. Guys, I take an androgen blocker. I overproduce androgens, testosterone, and I get little chin hairs, and I don't like plucking them, and I get cystic acne. So I take a hormone blocker. They're perfectly safe. If I could take it tomorrow, I'll get my chin hairs back. We've got to remember, and things like gender affirming care are things like just using the correct bathroom, calling somebody the right name, letting a trans boy wear a tux to prom instead of a dress. There are schools that still will make them dress according to their genitals. Those are the things we're talking about. We're not just talking surgery and hormones. Anyway, that's my rant.
They pushed back on my kid with his senior picture. Like when he went in to wear the tux, I remember like that he had 2 different teachers that he knew. And one of them was one that had known him a lot longer. And that one was kind of back off to the side. And the one teacher was like, you need to go put on a drape. And he was like, and my son has been bonding since middle school. And so he was just like, I can't wear a drape because of my binder. And it's like, I'm wearing a tux, and said this like 3 or 4 times. And this teacher was kind of like, no, you're not going to wear the tux. And finally the other teacher walked up and said, and apparently my kid was about ready to kind of break, and kind of walked over and said, let him wear the tux. And he did for his senior picture. But I mean, you still get this pushback. And it's just like, who cares?
Right.
What the hell they wear in the picture?
Right. So when Dr. Lulu was talking about the pediatrician that talked about respect for the religion, Jenny was talking about just respect for a person.
Okay.
We're not saying you have to love transgender people. You have to adopt them.
Nope.
Just like this is simple respect for a person to have
Let
rights.
them have their own choices.
And,
They
and,
make their own
and if
choices.
you really go to the truth and ask all trans people, what do you want? I want to be left alone.
Right.
That's the answer.
100%.
They just want you to
100%.
leave them alone. They're not asking
They
you.
want to be able to go to the bathroom without being arrested.
I'll beat up
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Or killed.
Or yelled at in the street,
or
or yelled at in
killed.
the restaurant, or
Yeah.
wherever else.
Yep.
Just
Harassed everywhere they go.
leave them
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
It's so easy. I mean, I have left probably 1 million people alone today. I didn't even know they were trans. I just left them the
I
fuck
love
alone.
that. I love that.
Magic.
Oh my God. I love that part. Yeah. Leave people alone.
Like,
Oh my goodness.
figure
Anyway.
it the hell out.
Mm.
I know not. I know not.
So
I-
Amber,
Go ahead. Sorry.
you want to summarize? I mean, yeah. I mean, I think we did great. Everybody got all wired up.
I
That's
was
what
gonna say,
parents
do we
do.
have? I didn't see any questions over here. Did y'all get any questions that we needed to answer?
No, man.
I'm not seeing any, but I'm on my phone, so it's always a little tricky. So I'll just
No, I'm gonna go
Okay.
through all the comments we got again, but maybe we can ask them to write and share any questions that they have. But no, they're mostly just giving us high fives and thanking us and showing us love, which I love, which I appreciate so much now.
We do. We love you. And if you know a parent, a loved one of a trans person, like, I don't know, just give us some love. You know, I'm not here to say that, oh my gosh, I have it as bad as a trans person. I don't, but it is a unique perspective, definitely, because I've always felt my whole life like whatever you throw at me, I can take. I have. I've made it this long, you know. It is a different story when you're talking about my kid. I
Child.
just want to commit an act of violence. I don't do it. I am well sponsored and I'm not going to do
Good
it.
clarification, Jenny.
It's not going to happen.
We're not gonna get that. I would even venture to add a yet at the end of that.
Yeah.
Yet, not yet.
Not gonna happen yet.
Inside, you know, I'm just trying to find some peace every day. And if you're a person who's struggling to find some peace in a world where people, you know, are coming at your kid or coming at you, I wish I had some incredible words of wisdom. I don't. I try to improve my compassion practice. I try to remember that everybody has the right to be wrong. And I try to remember that some people just don't have the capacity to open their minds and hearts. I
That's it.
just am not sure they're capable of it. And that's very sad. And I can feel pity for them. And when I can feel some compassionate pity, I hate them a little less.
Jenny, that sounds like a future podcast. How can you find peace when the world is such as it is?
I'm so
Or as
glad
you
you
say,
said
when you want
something.
to burn the world down. How can you
Because I am
find
on my way to it. My YouTube channel will be called the Spicy Compassion YouTube channel. Stay tuned. I don't have a laptop yet, so it's coming down the road.
I like that.
I think that's a good way. That's a good segue, maybe
Right.
to kind of work towards the door. So I mean, maybe we can summarize what's coming up next week. I mean, that's a nice bomb, Jenny. I didn't even see that coming. Whoa! Congratulations!
What's on the menu?
Yay!
Right.
Me?
And I've got my room will be on Tuesday nights, Mama Bear and supporting your trans kid. And Lulu, what do you have going? I know you come on live and pop on half the time.
I know, girl. Let me tell you. After those, I keep saying that people die in your family, and you mourn them, you cry, and I did all that. But one thing came out of all those deaths. I need to go bigger. I need to go bolder. And just be out there and let whatever is going to happen. So yes, join me tomorrow, Monday evening at 6 p.m. I have a brand new show of the supporting parents at workplace, parents of queer kids at the workplace. And actually I have a guest joining me, and her name is Kim. She's a mom of not one, but 2 trans kids. So stay tuned tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central. We're going to be talking about how to support parents at the workplace. Yes. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, you can find me,
So,
like Jenny
well,
said.
guys,
I
I guess we're gonna. What do you have?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say. I think I'm up. I'm up next, and Jenny
Yeah.
gave me that great idea. It coincides with me. I am a coach, a peaceful relationships coach. You can find me at Pride Relationship Coaching. That is peaceful relationships, imagine, design, and experience. And I help through one-on-one coaching of parents that are struggling to help and affirm their child, and also helping individuals in any type of relationship find peace. So that's what I want to focus on. So
Well, I guess then that's going to wrap us for this week, guys. We will
All
be back
right.
next Sunday at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And we hope that you will join us. If you have any other further questions, like if you watch this on Team Replay and you have questions, leave them. We do come back and check, and we will get back with you. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope y'all have a nice evening.
Bye. I'm gonna go see the Barbie movie.
Oh,
too,
let me
tomorrow.
know how it is. Let me know how it is. Did
I
y'all
will.
see someone on LinkedIn who was like crying about how, oh, woe is us men that no one like this.
Oh, that's so
Did y'all
bad.
see that?
I didn't
Won't
see that.
someone think of the men?
I know, like, oh, men in this show where like I'm like, huh?
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us.